Good morning. Good morning. And welcome. Here's my welcome script. I'm not used to doing this part of the service. Good morning and welcome to the First Parish Church of Stowe in Acton, a welcoming and spiritual community. My name is Cindy and I am the minister here at FPC. For those visiting for the first time, we welcome you. Please let us know you're here by filling out one of these nice bright orange visitor information cards in the pews, and you can hand it to an usher or just drop it in the plate during the offering. Our minister, staff, and board are listed on the front of the order of service, and please feel free to ask me or any of them any questions for more information. If you'd like a large print order of service, or a large print hymnal or an assisted listening device, please ask one of our ushers. Our listening devices are actually small radios. We broadcast the service out on a radio every morning, so you can listen from anywhere in the area if you need to go to a more quiet and I was going to say peaceful. It was peaceful in here, but if you need to go to a different space for any reason. Once a month, we have a children's chapel, and today is that once a month. And so the children begin their time right downstairs in the vestry. If you came in here and you want to go join the children's religious education program, what you're going to do is when the doctor pops out of this TARDIS for the opening words, you can come down now and follow him back into the TARDIS, and he'll take you downstairs to the children's chapel time and the religious education time. So come on forward. Any kids who want to join religious education, come down to the front row and just be ready to follow that doctor. He's the one in a bright red fez. You'll recognize him. And after the service, please join us for coffee or conversation in our fellowship hall, which is all the way at the other end of this building, and there are both stairs and elevator down at the end of this hall upstairs. And go down from, this is floor 3, we go down to floor 2, and then keep going that way into the fellowship hall. Again, we have coffee and conversation and more information there. And lastly, I'd like to draw your attention to the announcements in the order of service, and also invite you to check out our webpage where you can sign up for our newsletter and email alerts. I wanted to point out an announcement which is not in the order of service, which is that this next Saturday, I think at noon in Hudson, is the next No More Kings rally. We're going to probably be organizing with the Hudson and Marlborough congregation to maybe go back to their place together to debrief and eat some food maybe after the rally. So if you're planning on rallying, look for other FPCers there. They're the ones maybe who might be wearing like a Side with Love t-shirt if they have one, or look around now, memorize faces, find each other, and we'll maybe be going back to Marlborough and Hudson with that congregation afterwards. This No More Kings rally has been officially co-sponsored by the Unitarian Universalist Association, which has signed on to endorse it as a concept. So because of that, we're sort of taking it as an opportunity to bring two churches together in the spirit of social justice. And now, let us come together for a time of community, singing, and worship. That's rough. Doctor? Oh.
The sanctuary is rather bigger on the inside. Good morning.
Good morning.
Make sure this is working. Is this working?
Yes.
You can all hear me okay? Yes. Oh, good.
Don't forget to turn it off when you go downstairs to Children's Chapel.
Oh. Might not want to hear what's going on down there. So I was asked to say some things about this thing that we're doing today, but I wasn't sure what to say, so I decided to go back about a few thousand years, and I said, hey, what is this all even about? What do they call it? Festival of Booths. I guess they're celebrating my TARDIS, which I think is a pretty cool concept. So here's some words that this guy that I met wrote down. After the ingathering from your threshing floor and your vat, you shall hold a feast of booths for 7 days. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun to me. You shall rejoice in your festival with your children, with all of the people who work for you, and all of your family. You shall also do it with the parentless and all of the people who have lost their partners. You shall hold this festival for God for 7 days in the place that God will choose. For God will bless all your crops and all your undertakings, and you'll have nothing but joy. Well, that turns out that that's the beginning of this holiday they call Sukkot. It's pretty cool to me. I like a good Sukkot myself. I think I'm going to go hang out with the kids.
All right. We'll see you later. And let's follow them through. That's right. We're celebrating Sukkot, the Jewish harvest holiday and festival of booth today. I'm doing it in a wibbly wobbly, traveling through time sort of way. Our words for chalice lighting, which will be lit by our embodiment of the TARDIS, are by Summer El-Bayati, a UU Muslim of Iraqi descent who serves on the congregational life staff of the UUA in the Pacific region. This is titled Chalice Lighting for Liminal Times. In betwixt and in between, we move into liminal spaces that show shades of what can become, what can be. We light this chalice as a symbol of courage to move into that time of this and that, and not this and not that, with patience and faith and love and hope that this time will pass, like the sun that moves in between rising and setting, reminding us that beauty resounds in betwixt and in between. Our opening hymn is in your teal hymnal, number 1003, Where Do We Come From? I think you are capable of singing it as a round. So we're going to sing it once through together and then 3 times as a round, and we're going to divide into sections. Over here, you'll be number 1 and coming first, and I'll point. Here, you're number 2. Here, you're number 3, and here, you're number 4. Balcony, you can join whichever you want. This is, empowering to be sitting up so high. Please stand in body and spirit. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where can show what we do with your time. I always thought the second line that was where we come from. Who are we? That would make a little more sense today. Oh, I had to sit down. You're not supposed to. You're not standing up. That's okay, but please join in our covenant affirmation.
This church and service its all. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
As we begin in this journey through time this morning, we want to acknowledge that this land was not always colonized by the early settlers and the first parish church comers, but it was in fact a place that was Native American, as all of this land was, and that we are here on a land that was the community of the Nipmuc particularly, but also Pawtucket and Wampanoag, Massachusetts people. And many of them who lost their lives during the colonization of this land. We do this in keeping with our UU values, which honor diversity and equity and justice, and remembering that acknowledging this is just a first step towards bringing right relations with the Native peoples of this land. This is our time for our joys and sorrows, and a time when we let things be known across our community to each other of what's going on in our life. Our lay minister Ingrid Holcomb is here to help us with this process, and so that you might know who our lay ministers are, so you can reach out to them in times of trouble. Yeah, here's one. I don't know why it was left up here, but it was. So there you go. And if you have joy or sorrow, please raise your hand. And she said, begin by telling us if there were any online.
Thank you, Cindy.
We light one candle in our hearts for those joys and sorrows left unspoken, and one for the ongoing cost of war and our dreams of peace. Our words for prayer and meditation this morning come from the minister Gary Kowalski, who's written a lot on the spirits of animals and connections to the earth. And this one piece is titled All Our Relations. Our time is short here on the earth. Around us swirl immensities of time and space, a universe infinite in all directions. How small our hopes and cares seem amidst the panorama of creation. Yet we are not separate from the cosmos, but we have evolved and grown out of it, like the leaves of a tree or the waves upon a sea. And our thoughts are its thoughts. Our lives a manifestation of never-ending vitality. Our spirits a microcosm of the beauty and creativity of the whole. Fill us then with reverence and compassion for all who are our kin, cloud and sun, sibling and cousin, the multitude of beings who share this improbable and never to be repeated moment. All expressions like ourselves of the mind at large, the spirit at play, the dynamism at work, in whom we live and move, and whom we will never know. Blessed be. and amen. Before we move on in the service, I want to give a few things of introduction to those of you who are not Doctor Who fans, which I was not for a good 3/5 of my life at least. And so I know how lost it can be when people get into their fandoms. All you need to know here for this service is that Doctor Who is a science fiction / fantasy show about a character named the Doctor who is an alien, who along with human companions often, and sometimes other alien companions, travels through time and space in a vehicle called the TARDIS, which stands for time and relative dimensions in space, I think. And for some reason, low budget in the 1960s, the TARDIS, which used to change shapes all the time and change forms to blend in with its chameleon circuit into the surroundings, it got stuck in the form of a police box. And that made for easy low budget television, and it's kind of a humorous thing that this box whirls through time and space, taking the Doctor and companions to different places. And we just kind of thought it was really funny because Sukkot is the festival of booths, and this is a phone booth, so that's the joke. Now you're in on it. Okay, back out of breaking the fourth wall. Hey, I need to call the Doctor. Hang on 1 second here. Yeah, you do. But I just need to call the Doctor quick because I need his help. Doctor, can you hear me calling? It's my call isn't going through, that's ironic. Hello? Doctor? Hello? No, I wasn't calling Trevor Reef. All right. I'll text him while we sing. We're going to sing I Know This Rose Will Open. And based on our last experience, we're just going to sing it straight through 4 times in unison. I know this rose will open. Please rise, Mother and Spirit. I'm going to call Doctor again. It is ironic when you are in a building with a cell tower in its steeple that your phone still don't know. It's a wibbly wobbly time and space kind of experience. Maybe you can help me in calling for the Doctor. Can you yell out, Doctor, Doctor? Doctor! Doctor!
Doctor Who?
Oh, Doctor, you're finally here. We need your help today, Doctor.
Help.
Help.
Help. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
cool with?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad you're here. I said I was going to lead this service about Sukkot, but I really just can't seem to find the deeper meaning in this festival. And so I bet you've been there, and you can tell us more about how it all began and what it means, and why are we talking about this harvest festival today?
I don't know, because that's what you wanted to do.
Oh.
2,000 years ago, apparently, maybe 3,000 years ago. I can't count. You know, when you're 940 years old, it's really hard to remember what people are telling you. Even if you just got told 940 years ago. Right?
Right.
So, all those years ago, there was a group of people who, according to their tradition, had been enslaved for a very long time. When they finally got out, they started wandering in the wilderness looking for a home for themselves. So I decided to go figure out who they were and why they were wandering. Why were people wandering for 40 years? So I took a stop at the beginning, and I took a stop in the middle, and I kind of took a stop at the end. I wasn't very impressed with some of the way the sukkahs, that's what they call them, a sukkah. Also Sukkot, which is plural, booths. That's why they call this a festival of booths, because it's a bunch of sukkahs. I guess that's how we would say it. But they were living in them, and they didn't last very long. Do you want to know why?
Yes.
They were made from natural materials. Those things just disintegrate. That's why the TARDIS is, I don't even know what the TARDIS is made out of. But it lasted a lot longer than these booths. But for 40 years, these people wandered through the desert looking for a place to live. During this entire time that they were looking for a place to live, they were relying only on what the natural world gave them. So they were foraging in the wilderness. But you know, it's funny. When I first heard about these folks, I was told wandering in the wilderness, but this is a desert. How are they finding food? I don't know. According to them, there's just a bunch of food that falls from the sky every day. It sounds good to me, but they're very grateful for all of this food falling from the sky. They call it manna. Of course, I heard about manna when I was playing video games with these kids a few years ago, and it has a little blue bar. It's not that kind of manna, it turns out. It's manna that you can eat, and apparently it's soft, filling, you know, kind of like that lambus bread that I met those elves serving not that long ago. It just fills you up, and you get this glow. But they were looking for a place to live, and that's basically what this whole holiday was about, was realizing that they had no place to live, and so they wandered to find one. So what was the meaning behind all of that today? What is the point of still celebrating that today? So I asked some of the more modern folks that are still doing this, living in booths. You know, there's one in the backyard in Berens that I just saw, and last night people were eating dinner in it. Dinner. I thought that was pretty cool, eating dinner in it. So what is the symbolism of wanting to do that? And why is it important that their tradition says that when you put a bunch of natural materials on top, they're not allowed to cover it with anything that can prevent rain? Why would you do that? Why would you build a booth where you can't put a covering on it that would prevent the rain? Huh? That's the best answer I've ever heard. So you can get the manna. I love that.
And this is the desert.
And it's the desert.
It's not raining.
It's not raining. Although the early rains and the late rains do begin right after the holiday of Sukkot. Believe it or not, in that region. The reason for it was so they could see 3 stars out through the roof to remember how precarious their situation is. That when we are living faced just with the natural reality of our existence, it is pretty darn hard. And everything can fall apart like that. It was to teach that stability is not a real thing, except the moments that we create with each other every single minute. that is the only thing that matters, is these gatherings together to remind one another that this is not going to last. That's why they use the natural materials. It's why they also make a booth that can just blow over in the wind if it's a really strong gust of wind. So if you're living in a booth like that, and you're faced with the reality that existence is this kind of ephemeral thing, what holiday would you attach it to? And so they attach it to their harvest festivals, because the harvest festivals remind them that nothing lasts, everything decays, so why not make it our festival of joy? That's the other name for Sukkot. It is the festival of joy. I think that's what I've got. I really want to go see the dinosaurs, if you don't mind. Oh, thanks.
Thank you for explaining that history, Doctor.
Yeah.
I always just knew that Sukkot was the festival of booths and a harvest festival, and now I understand the depths of the holiday in so much more of a different way, and why we're talking about it here and now. Harvest festivals. I've always known that they were for reaping, the time of plenty, the food that we are taking in. But I forget that in that joy of the harvest, there's the memory of the lean times, the hard times. And with the Jewish struggle, that story of the hard time of Exodus, the wandering through the desert, has brought so much meaning to so many people over the centuries. In the days of slavery in this country, they sang songs of Moses, of wandering from slavery to whatever would be their new home, which they didn't know yet as they're wandering through the desert. In slavery times, people told each other to go down Moses and to wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. There's so much power in that story for our time as well. The story of Exodus tells us of a people wandering for years in search of a new home, homeless in exile. It's something to remember as we watch the migrations of people in our own time, driven from lands of war, driven from places of oppression, driven to seek a new home, seek shelter, creating temporary shelter where they land. I remember the days of my college years, not that long ago, but in more sense of time, when we were still in a time of apartheid in South Africa. And the students, in recognition of that and in protest of that, built shanties, themselves kind of temporary booth, on the square in the middle of campus. I know that was done here at Harvard too, and on many campuses around the country, to protest against the living conditions of apartheid. Generations before in America, in the Great Depression, shanty towns were plentiful here. Hoovervilles, we called them. I bet you've seen. I bet you've seen many booths, many shanties while traveling through time. So, here in America, right here and now, we celebrate Sukkot as a way of remembering all these trials of the past and the trials of the present, and celebrating our own harvests, but also bearing witness, because the trials are not over, and too many are facing the hardship in the here and now. In this country, we're in a real housing crisis, with more and more people unable to find affordable places to live. In fact, it was one of the issues in front of the Unitarian Universalist Association at our last General Assembly when we were studying on what issue to study for the next 3 years. And the housing crisis didn't win because we have so many crises to study right now. But there are a lot of good reasons to continue to study it anyway and address it in our country. And of course, the issue of Sukkot, of the wandering without housing in search of home, makes us think of all the places undergoing wars and bombings, still forcing people to flee their homes in search of a new place, a new landing spot for their booths to call home. Right now in this church, we're also spending a year, or at least part of a year, beginning to reflect on the nature of home. Sukkot is more meaningful for us this year as we enter into talks with the religious congregation of Unitarian Universalists just south of us in Hudson, as they talk about selling their building and finding a new home, which might be with us. But if not, they may find themselves wandering in the metaphorical desert in search of a place, in search of a space. And most of all, this time of the Festival of Booths makes us think of the people from other lands who have wandered here into the U.S. in search of this being their home, the asylum seekers, and how one of our missions as a church, as a faith body, as you heard during our Joys and Sorrows, has been to create relationship, to offer support, and to live into that relationship more deeply every year since we've begun. and especially now, as the need deepens, as families have to go into deeper hiding and live in more fear, the thought that they'll be gathered up and forced to return to the place from which they fled. Thank you, Doctor, for making us think about it here, in this spacious and wide place, a place of comfort for so many, a sanctuary for so many. In that spirit, I think it's time for us to put our money where our mouth is and give some financial support to the people seeking home. Let's take our offering and share it with our task force that is supporting asylum seekers, families here and now, who are needing support as they try to make a life here in the U.S., a life that's endangered right now, but still safer than where they came from, that we might make their path easier, their road a little smoother, and let's do this generously as we're able. But before we pass our plates, let me share a story that one of our FPC Supporting Asylum Seeker members shared on our forum after protesting at the ICE facility last month. There were a lot of people supporting a woman named Bianca, and Russell Hart wrote these words on our forum. He says, there were representatives from the offices of Markey, Warren, Presley, Moulton, and the mayor of Salem presented in person and all spoke on Bianca's behalf. She had all of the appropriate documentation and had committed no crimes. At 9 a.m., Bianca was escorted by many from the clergy from our gathering spot on the grass in front of the ICE facility to the front door of ICE, while the rest of us sang to her, "We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. You do not walk alone." The words to this song were given greater meaning, as we did not know if ICE would arrest and deport her or if she would be released. At one point, I looked over my shoulder at the crowd to notice that many were openly weeping. By 9:30, we saw Bianca leave the ICE facility escorted by her attorney. Together, they addressed the crowd and reported that Bianca had been released and had been granted a year to complete her asylum application, and there was great jubilation. Bianca was overcome with gratitude and appreciation and was free to return home. The ICE officials wanted her attorney to know that Bianca was granted this privilege because of the overwhelming support of those who showed up on her behalf. Russ continues, it is important to recognize the power we have when we act collectively in standing up to tyrants and bullies. There were two others who appeared that morning, one to report that she had not seen her son in weeks and did not know where he was, as he had been disappeared to a number of locations. And a young man who had spent a month being transferred from facility to facility to facility over the course of a month in the most deplorable of conditions. This demonstrates the need for more of us to organize and stand up for the marginalized, the poor, the abused, and the powerless, as many are in need of more support. Please consider joining us in standing out in protest against this illegal and immoral regime. So, with those words in front of us, let us take our morning offering to be split between the work of this church and the work of supporting asylum seekers, which is the work of this church. Thank you. So let me break that fourth wall a little bit more. Why are we calling on the Doctor from Doctor Who today? I mean, it's clear now why we're talking about Sukkot, but why did we build a TARDIS, other than the fact that it brought our staff team a great joy to build a TARDIS? And if you don't like it, then you're with Rayla, who's the one of us who's not a Doctor Who fan. We're working with Rayla. But the rest of us were like giggling with joy at the thought of it. And we've explained, right, that the space and time ship of the Doctor in Doctor Who is called the TARDIS. It can take any form and got stuck as this police box, but the joke keeps going bigger on the inside. But why again, other than sheer fun, have we invoked this today? Oh, and the Time Booth Festival of Booths joke, which was just a moment, again, of sheer delight for us.
Well, I discovered quite early on when our new intern minister, Trek, told me his name comes not just from trekking the trails, but also from Star Trek, that he's clearly a sci-fi fan. But not just that, but for both of us, science fiction, and I'm guessing also fantasy, because the two are woven together in a very wibbly wobbly kind of way. Sci-fi and fantasy are integral to our understanding of storytelling, of myth making, of theology, of religion. So there's a great value in looking to history and to scripture for meaning. And we're doing some of the history looking all year long in this year's religious education program. And that's fantastic and useful and has so much to say to us. But for those of us who are lovers of sci-fi and fantasy, there is just as much value, just as much myth-making and meaning and theology in the fantastical. And one who is just amazing in this regard is the Doctor from Doctor Who. Because sci-fi does what the myths of the world religions do. It answers our questions about life, the universe, and everything. Want to understand the nature of God? Why not explore that with Captain Kirk, who is meeting an alien who is and is not a god all at the same time, and then doing that again and again and again throughout the series in different ways? Want to understand the nature of humanity? What's better than to cast us against the cyborgs and compare and contrast and see what's different from Battlestar Galactica to Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep or Blade Runner, as it's known in film? Want to understand how we survive and thrive in this dystopian world? Turn to the Hunger Games or to the Parable of the Sower, or all the way back to 1984, when 1984 seemed like a long way into the future. While it's so distantly past now that that's laughable, but yet still so poignantly real in its threats that it shares with us. And why not do this with the Doctor, who travels to the end of the universe and back again, over and over again, who teaches us that while time is a shifting, changing thing and wibbly wobbly and timey-wimey, when we struggle with our past and struggle with our future, the Doctor teaches us that things can change, but also that there are fixed moments that can't change, no matter how much we wish they could, and how to accept that fate. The Doctor in Doctor Who is a character who is in exile from his planet, from his people, in his various travels, and sometimes her various travels through time and space. He is at odds with this planet and culture, with his planet and culture. His home is caught in a time war, or sometimes his planet is even eliminated. And so he always, vastly, painfully alone, seeks out the nearest and most comfortable thing to who he is, but yet he is always separate and different from, which is humanity. And in this juxtaposition, this relationship between alien and human, we learn so much that is relevant. One of the most poignant and painful episodes is one where the Doctor visits Vincent van Gogh. And Van Gogh is a fixed point in time. The Doctor cannot save him from his depression and his untimely death because Van Gogh's story is too well known, too poignant, too important. But what he can do is bring him forward in time with him and show him his legacy and give him a moment of joy so that when he dies knowing. And so if you look out there in the world for Doctor Who merchandise, you'll see that painting that Van Gogh paints in the episode, which is the exploding TARDIS, well, you can find it on everything from posters to bow ties, which you'll probably see one on this guy at some point later in the year, to stoles like mine. Last winter, when I was on sabbatical, I had two friends die. Friends I met in the dystopian year of 1984, actually, or maybe it was very late 1983. Two friends, both named Lisa, both among my 6 closest friends who saved my life through the depression and loneliness that is high school of the 1980s. And I think we, as a group of friends, saved their lives back. Lisa, the elder, she was the first to die. She had been a fundamentalist in high school, but she had lost her faith. And her ex, who she met in that faith, who now claims herself to be a trans woman, she asked me to do Lisa's memorial. And everywhere at her funeral was the Doctor and Vincent van Gogh. Our friend group got a bouquet of sunflowers for the funeral, and there were sunflowers on the casket, and her painting was in Van Gogh's sunflower frame, and there were Doctor Who imagery around as well. And in her service, for the first time, I quoted Doctor Who in a memorial service. And I quoted the Doctor who said to Vincent van Gogh, "Look at the sky. It's not dark and black and without character. The black is, in fact, deep blue. And over there, lighter blue and blowing through the blues and the blackness, the wind swirling through the air and then shining, bursting through the stars. And you see how they roar their light everywhere we look. The complex magic of nature blazes before our eyes. We're calling on the doctor today because while people are pulled from their homes, we need the blazing stars. The Sukkot booth is only a Sukkot booth if you can see the stars swirling in that deep blue of the starry sky through its ceiling. How else then, in this complex beauty and depth of this world of nature and deep pain and sorrow of humanity at the same time, can we hold this profound complexity of life? For me, the answers are always in the starry vastness of space, but through that wild and infinite possibility of story, of human story, of science fiction and fantasy. And what a joy it has been to find someone of such a like mind in this fabulous creature that I get to work with this year, this intern minister, that today, while I've broken the fourth wall, I will return to calling doctor. So Doctor who? Dr. Jew? Why is this holiday relevant? Why do Jews still celebrate it today? What does it say to your own experience?
She keeps calling me doctor. Ingrid.
Well, I can't call you master.
Although I am working on my master's in divinity. To quote one of my favorite authors, so it goes. Hey, thanks. Well, that's a neat trick you can do with these little magic wands. You just stuck in there. They kind of, had I just had the sonic screwdriver, I probably could have just fixed it myself. Thank you so much. So we're in this liminal time. Celebrating a holiday like Sukkot allows us to remember that liminality is an every life occurrence. It's your life, it's my life, it's everyone's life. We have moments of liminality that are not quite where we've been and not quite where we're going. So we celebrate this holiday every year to remind ourselves that there will be moments in our lives that are not quite where we've been and not quite where we're going yet. When we're in those moments and we're harvesting, right? This is a harvest festival. When we take the moment to pause, to live in this ephemeral booth, it'll last 7 or 8 days, depending on where you're living. There's rules about how long it actually stays up in the diaspora. It's 8 days here, just in case we didn't see the new moon on the right night. But we do this during the harvest season to remind ourselves that we can harvest things from our own lives, the things we've learned, the lessons that we have been taught, take them with us into the next iteration of who we are. I start every single service. That Trek dude starts every service he starts with his opening words. He usually likes to say, "Look around the room." This sanctuary is full of a congregation that has never existed before, and in this iteration will never exist again. This is a liminal moment where we come together, bringing with us all that we have, hoping that in sharing it with one another, we will become better people when we walk out that door. Knowing that the world can make our hearts bigger on the inside.
I asked a certain Chalice lighting TARDIS, what is the most Doctor Who hymn in our hymnals? And the TARDIS said to me, you mean, except for Blue Box Home, of course. And so that is how we are going to sing our closing hymn, if you choose, or you may just go with the traditional lyrics if you like. The cacophony will be wonderful. Please rise in body and spirit and sing hymn number 1064 in your teal hymnals.
Though
Below me I feel no motion,
standing by these mountains and plains, Far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my lips companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue box home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on. Greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. Wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Beloveds, kindred souls, all my ship's companions, we pilgrim heritage and complicated souls, as we drift together through this liminal time and space into the unknown future, may we center love and the work of justice, and may we go in peace.
And as we do, may our hearts grow bigger on the inside than they could have possibly ever imagined. Live long and prosper, friends.
Be with you till we meet again. As life lays its
Your phone up there? Yes. That's why I could reach you.
Huh?
Was it up there when I was trying to?
peace be with you till we meet again.
So Neil Young.
Come a little bit closer, hear what I have to say. Just like children sleeping, we could dream the night away. But there's a full moon rising, let's go dancing in the light. We know where the music's playing. Let's go out and feel the night. Because I'm still in love with you. I wanna see you dance again. Because I'm still in love with you. On this harvest moon. When we were strangers, I watched you from afar. When we were lovers, loved you with all my heart. But now it's getting late, and the moon is climbing high. I wanna celebrate, see the shining in your eyes. Because I'm still in love with you. I wanna see you dance again. Because I'm still in love with you. On this harvest moon.